Round number 1 is here for GLC League Night. We've got Chase Juicy on the left versus John Patterson on the right. Very excited to see how this match goes. Two high-quality players that I expect nothing but greatness from. Looks like we've got Chase playing first. He is playing Colorless, gets an energy drop, looks like maybe onto Hop Snorlax. He's got Fire Energy and Fairy Energy in his deck, which is interesting to see. There are definitely some Colorless builds that are running both Fire and Fairy Energies, and the reason for that is that you can use Crispin to accelerate 2 energy into play during a turn. We'll attach 1 bonus energy and then attach from hand. Or you could play Mina, which searches your deck for a Fairy Energy and attaches it to one of your Pokemon. Or you could play Raihan to accelerate one of those from the discard pile. So a bunch of different options available with the Fairy and Fire Energy both featured in the Colorless deck. John is playing Psychic, it looks like. And my God, has a turn 1 Galarian Articuno. That is absolutely insane. Galarian Articuno has got the Cruel Charge ability, which allows you to attach up to 2 Psychic Energy from your hand to Galarian Articuno when you play it from your hand to the bench. John doesn't have a whole lot going on in his hand, but he did have the turn 1 Psy Laser. He opened Wobbuffet, decided to move the Wobbuffet out of the active spot, breaking that Bide Barricade lock, which would have prevented Chase from using any abilities so long as it's in the active spot. And it looks like Chase is thinking about just using Mallow and Lana, which I don't hate. You could just heal this Hop Snorlax in the active and wait another turn. You know, you've committed both energy to it at this point, so I kind of like that from Chase. You know, Chase committed that second energy to the Hop Snorlax real early on in this turn. And it's also interesting that John decided to target the Snorlax. Instead of taking a knockout on the Cramorant, John decided to use Psy Laser to hit the Snorlax. The reason for that is Dynamic Press makes it so Snorlax does 80 damage to itself. So essentially saying like, oh, well, you know, the Snorlax would knock itself out. But I think that Chase should just use Mallow and Lana here and heal this Hop Snorlax. Absolutely. So I would discard the Muscle Band and the Hex Maniac would be the 2 that I would discard. And then next turn you can go from there. I do not think that Chase does have the Hop's Choice Band in his hand, so he can just take a knockout right now, but he would knock out his own Pokemon too, which is extremely risky. But it looks like that's what he's going for, so this is a little bit sketchy. This play is a little bit sketchy. I kind of like John Patterson has no board state whatsoever. Absolutely none. So I'm almost, you know, I'm kind of in a position where I'm like, if you just Mallow and Lana the Hop Snorlax to the bench and just chill, you're kind of fine, right? And then you just wait. And then, like, what does John do? John's not doing anything. He's got a counter energy on his Galarian Articuno, a Wobbuffet, and nothing else. John also did not play a supporter from his hand. So you know that John does not have a supporter and can't really, like, move from here, right? And that Hop Snorlax is going to knock itself out while also taking out John's Galarian Articuno. So a double knockout there. Both players left with just a single Pokemon in the active. Hops Cramorant to Wobbuffet. John did top deck a Colress's Tenacity and has both Raihan and Colress's Tenacity, and now he's probably thinking, can he win? And I think the answer is almost. That's why I did not like this play from Chase, because all John has to do is like Professor's Letter, and then if he had like Night Stretcher, he just like comes back, Galarian Articuno's again, and then it's like game over, right? Like the Galarian Articuno is actually more alive in the discard pile than it is in the active spot because you can recover it. It wouldn't have been that crazy for John to be able to whip up. Actually, okay, John wins. With Mystery Energy, yeah, John wins. John literally wins here. I don't know if he's going to see it because he Professor's Letters for 2, and then you use Colress's Tenacity for Mystery Energy and Dimension Valley, and if he's got both Mystery Energy and Dimension Valley in his hand, oh no, but he doesn't have the Galarian Articuno. He needs one more thing. Oh, he's so close. If he had just like Rescue Stretcher in his hand, then he wins. But he doesn't have that, I don't think. But like this is why I thought that was really sketchy for Chase to take this knockout. I mean, because John is very close to being able to pull this off. Putting the Galarian Articuno back in the discard pile does make it much easier to grab. And accelerate energy back onto. All right, so John's got Raihan. Can Raihan attach Psychic Energy from the discard pile to Wobbuffet? And then I think we're probably just going to see a Buddy Poffin, continue setting up. John can go get like Ralts and Kirlia off the Buddy Poffin, and that's not Ralts and Kirlia, Ralts and Xatu off the Buddy Poffin. And that is where we're going. So Chase ends up being in a relatively fine position after that. But it was close. John was one card shy of the win right there. If John had a Rescue Stretcher or Night Stretcher in his hand, he would have just won the game outright. Instead, we've got 2 energy on Wobbuffet now, Psychic Assault for 10. And Chase stacked Guzma and Hala on top of his deck last turn with Cypher Maniac. And now we can see, like, Chase is in a little bit of a weird spot, right? And kind of we're going to get to see how that decision to double knockout Snorlax and Galarian Articuno affects this entire game, because, you know, Chase's line of play to stack the Guzma and Hala instead of a draw supporter, knowing that you have Wobbuffet the active, right? So, like, Chase is not allowing himself to draw any extra cards here. Does get Artisan in play, which is going to help him get Pokemon out, but he's stuck at kind of getting just one Pokemon at a time, right? Like, you can go get Fan Rotom, but you weren't able to Fan Call on turn 1, so Fan Rotom is the choice here. Still a very sparse-looking board, though, because it's just Fan Rotom and Cram, right? You've got U-turn board can go to Cram, powerful Colorless Energy to Fan Rotom. I mean, Fan Rotom with the Muscle Band. Wow, okay, that actually is a knockout. That is pretty intense. I did forget that Chase had the Muscle Band in the hand, and now this play is looking genius, right? Because the Muscle Band with the powerful Colorless Energy actually pumps this Fan Rotom up to 110, which is how much HP Wobbuffet has. I just totally whiffed on that. I did not see this play coming. That is actually nuts from Chase, and now I really like this line, actually. And Chase probably saw this math coming, you know, all the way from last turn, just thinking to himself, like, okay, well, I can guarantee the one-hit KO on Wobbuffet this next turn with a single Guzma and Hala. And all Chase really needs is 1 energy on Cramorant. Even if this Fan Rotom were to go down, all he needs is to Raihan an energy to Cramorant, and Cramorant is going to use Fickle Spitting for 120 damage. So I do think that this is exactly what Chase wants. Chase wants to run this Psychic down fast. And now that I've kind of seen where this line has gotten him with the 1-hit KO on Wobbuffet from Fan Rotom, I'm definitely starting to believe in this line that he's taken, and excited to see how it plays out. This Colorless deck likes to be fast and aggressive. You've got Fan Rotom, which is like your best early attacker in the deck, as its Assault Landing attack only takes 1 energy with buffs like Muscle Band and Powerful Colorless. I mean, we saw this Fan Rotom hitting for over 100 damage is pretty nasty. The only requirement is that you have a Stadium card in play, and of course Guzma and Hala gets all of that. Gets the Artisan, gets the Powerful Colorless energy. So a perfect little combo there to get this Fan Rotom going. Meanwhile, John has to kind of figure out what he is going to do in response. And it looks like he Artisaned for Mimikyu, and Mimikyu can actually copy this Fan Rotom's Assault Landing. And it looks like John is going to use Raihan to get an extra energy attached to Mimikyu. And with Dimension Valley, John may be able to decrease this Copycat's attack cost to just 1 Psychic. Dimension Valley is an incredibly powerful Stadium card, making it so that Psychic Pokemon's attacks cost 1 Colorless less. And this would be exciting if we just keep batting back and forth like this. Mystery Energy to Xatu, retreat into Dimension Valley, and here comes Copycat. Retreat into Mimikyu, Dimension Valley, Copycat, Assault Landing for 70 damage, and John has tied this game right back up at 4-4 prizes. And now Chase again has to kind of figure out, like, how am I going to continue going tit for tat here? How am I going to continue swinging blow for blow? Raihan is going to get Cramorant to attack. So, like, that is key, right? Raihan onto Cramorant. Cramorant's incredible. Fickle Spitting, 120 damage for just 1 energy. If your opponent doesn't have 3 or 4 prizes exactly, then the attack does nothing. But for the next 2 turns, John's going to have 4 and then 3 prizes. That's if John takes a knockout. This Cramorant could just steamroll this game at this point, because John has really thrown a lot of effort and resources into going toe-to-toe with Chase's aggressive strategy. And now Chase has been able to pare his entire hand down using Palpad to shuffle Raihan and Guzma back into the deck, and use Raihan to go search out Quick Ball to get a Rangaroo. And this is like a really strong play from Chase. I'm loving this, because the biggest problem with Chase's board right now is that he's got no stability, no draw power, no nothing, right? And instead of just going and searching out like the backup attacker and just hoping for a good top deck, Chase is saying, nah, I'm going to set up a Rangaroo and then just continue using Instruct to churn through my deck. And he found Night Stretcher here, which could allow him to get the Hop Snorlax out of the discard pile and get that guy into play, which I don't hate. It does buff the Cramorant if you want to do that. But also waiting is fine too. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. So Fickle Spitting, going to dole out 120 damage. Now Chase is raced all the way down to 3 prizes left. Can John pull a rabbit out of a hat and make this happen again? I think the answer is yes. He's got a strong-looking hand, but without Malamar or Raihan or anything like that, can John actually launch an attack? The cheapest attacker would be Iron Boulder, which takes 2 energy. And I don't think that John has a way, now that I'm kind of like reconsidering this, you would have to find Xatu. Like, it is certainly possible, but you got to find Xatu in order to accelerate that extra energy down. He's got the level ball, which can go get Kirlia, which is obviously a great start. Kirlia is the backbone consistency engine of the Psychic deck with its refinement ability, allowing you to discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. Kirlia, of course, evolves into Gallade, who is also a consistency Pokemon with its Buddy Catch ability, allowing you to tutor out a supporter from your deck every turn. And can also give your opponent a Swirly with the Swirling Slice attack, which does 160 damage and allows you to move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. So a great attacker as well. But John needs a lot in order to get this thing going here. I don't love getting rid of the Nest Ball as like John needs another attacker, right? And needs like a stronger board state. So I don't love getting rid of that. But there's, you know, sure, there is no great choice of like what to get rid of, but now it's starting to feel like Colorless Tenacity probably should have gone. But like what Pokemon is even hypothetically getting left in the active spot this turn, right? So Iron Boulder getting fetched out thanks to the Artisan that John found off of the refinements. And then Colorless Tenacity is going to be the supporter for turn. John can go get Recycle Energy and Horror Psychic Energy and a Stadium card, but I don't think that there's a Stadium card left in this deck. So this supporter is literally just fetching a single energy. So I think I would have liked to see John keep that Nest Ball. And John is just trying to deny a prize by sending up the Boulder. And this feels absolutely horrible because we know Chase has got Night Stretcher in hand. So that means that Chase can actually just go retrieve the Hop Snorlax from his discard pile. And Hop Snorlax has the extra helpings ability. And this is what I was talking about. I think this Hops Cramorant is just going to be able to steamroll the rest of this game. So long as John is stuck on 4 prizes, this Hops Cramorant is eating so good. Fickle Spitting can get boosted all the way up to 150 damage with Chase using the Night Stretcher in his hand. And Night Stretcher is going to be... oh, it's going to be nuts. And I think Winona is a really powerful card for... wow, okay. Boss's order is bringing up Kirlia. And Chase actually saving the Night Stretcher. I like this play too. I think that I see the vision here. Chase going down to 2 prizes remaining. And I like what Chase has done. Saving the Winona in hand and the Night Stretcher. So now... if this Cramorant gets knocked out, Chase can just use Night Stretcher and bring the Cramorant back. Maybe use Winona to go get Bibarel and Squovit, and then draw a ton of cards. So I do like this, as even if Chase does sacrifice the Cramorant to the Iron Boulder, he'll be able to come back with it next turn with the Night Stretcher. Also taking out the Kirlia from John's board just fiercely weakens his board state, as Kirlia, like I said just a turn ago, is the backbone of this Psychic deck. John finds Evo Soda, so he can evolve up into Xatu. He's got Xatu with the Clairvoyant Sense ability. Can accelerate an extra energy into play and allow you to draw 2 cards. Notably, John did not play Iono or N. He's got them both in hand right now. Did not play either of those. Ended up using Avery for turn just to draw 3 cards. I didn't see if he drew into the Iono and the N off of the Avery. So no hand disruption this turn from John. And in order to attack with Iron Boulder, he will have to match hand sizes. Not always the easiest thing to do. Let's see. 5-5, and Adjusted Horn is good. 170 damage. John goes down to 3 prizes, and the game is not over yet. However, Chase does have a good play to back this up in his hand. We see him kind of eyeing up his discard pile. He's got Night Stretcher. Can use Artisan to go get yet another basic Pokemon out of his deck. Artisan has been getting a lot of mileage this game as both players played it. And off the Artisan, looks like Chase is considering Skwovet. And we'll bench the Skwovet. Skwovet has got an ability, allows you to put your entire hand on the bottom of the deck and draw 1 card, which is very good in combination with Bibarel and Oranguru. We see Chase is playing Winona as a supporter for turn, which is very strong. Winona is going to search out Bibarel and maybe Snorlax. Bibarel's got the Industrious Incisors ability, which allows you to fill your hand to 5 cards once during your turn. And with Skwovet's Nest Dash, you can put your hand on the bottom of the deck, then fill your hand to 5. Just allows you to churn through your deck at a very powerful rate. So Chase has got Snorlax. I don't know that Chase actually has the energy that he needs in order to attack. He's got the Cramorant back, and this is the one thing that's somewhat of an issue with this route that Chase decided to go, because he does not have the knockout on this Boulder, right? I think I would have liked to see Chase toss the Powerful Colorless back into the deck, because if he does rip the Powerful Colorless energy with the Cramorant, he would take a knockout, right? He's going to use a Oranguru, draw 3, finds Hisuian Heavy Ball. Doduo. I think you just actually keep it in the prizes, yeah. And Chase may not actually be able to take a knockout. We'll have to see. He's got Industrious Incisors for 3. Fill the hand up, and what does he get? No energy, right? So, yeah, I thought Chase could have used the special charge, put the Powerful Colorless energy back into the deck, because if he finds Powerful Colorless energy, then Cramorant can swing for 120. I kind of see the vision of what Chase was going for. Obviously, if you can piece it all together, this is kind of the dream, but things are finally starting to slow down for Chase, which is going to give John an opportunity to claw his way back in this game a little bit. I think that Chase is going to have to probably retreat into the Cramorant and just sack it this turn, which will allow John to go to 2 prizes. And that's somewhat why I wanted to see, I did kind of want to see Chase knock out that Boulder, because now the Boulder is going unanswered. It was, I think, maybe a little bit greedy to go for the Kirlia. I saw the vision. I mean, the line is there. If you're drawing absolute flames, you can pull that off. But already kind of being in the lead, there's sometimes where instead of chasing a support Pokemon, sometimes it's just better to chase the energy and chase the attacker. And I think that this is just a classic situation of that unfolding where Chase ignored the attacker in order to target down a support Pokemon. And I think John was so far on the ropes, like, I mean, he failed to power up that attacker the previous turn, right? So, like, so I think that Chase would have been in a better spot just taking that attacker back out and then potentially setting John back yet another turn, right? Instead, now, John did have to give up his Kirlia, yeah, but he's got Xatu, right? And now this Boulder has stuck for 2 turns. And you could see that it was Chase's decision to ignore the Boulder is the reason why that this ended up occurring. So, and you can see you're kind of like, when you're looking at these lines in a Gym Leader Challenge game, you're kind of splitting hairs, right? You're really, it's all judgment calls. This is something that I love about the Pokemon TCG is that you're just trying to make the best judgment call that you can, right? And you're kind of playing the odds. It's like impossible math to calculate, you know, how the likelihood of specific things happening during turns in a 60-card singleton deck. But experience and knowledge of your deck, knowledge of matchups, things like that can help you to have just really good intuition with your lines and the decisions that you make every turn. So, you know, I think Chase was kind of, you know, seeing blood there and decided to chase down the Kirlia, but instead knocking out that Iron Boulder might have ended up being the optimal choice. And we see John Classic shuffle the discard pile. There's no reason to shuffle the discard pile, John. No reason. Are we going to just let him do it? Why are you shuffling your discard pile? That's beast. All right, Clairvoyant Sense. Accelerate an energy onto Mimikyu. But Chase did not use an attack last turn, so Mimikyu not going to be the attacker. It looks like John is trying to just prep an attacker for next turn and is trying to match hand sizes. And with a burnable card in hand, will guaranteed be able to match hand sizes off of the Iono. He draws 3 cards off Iono. Chase gets 2. And with the Evolution Incense, he can go get Malamar, which is making his board look even stronger. Malamar's got the Psychic Recharge ability. So now John can put 2 extra energy into play every turn. And now this game is all tied up, folks. 2-2 prizes. What an incredible match we have got. It has been close the entire time. And now Chase using Tag Call just to take a look at his deck. Reorder it, perhaps. Burn it out of his hand because he's going to use some draw abilities right now. He's got Bibarel's Industrious Incisors. He's got Counter Energy, which doesn't work yet. He kind of needs to find Mina or Raihan. Nestash puts the hand on the bottom of the deck, does find double turbo energy, but needs to find a Mina or a Raihan or something like that, or else he's cooked. Industrious Incisors for 3. Doesn't find it. Oh my gosh, does not find the answer. Just absolutely terrible. Chase unable to respond here. Hey Chase, put the U-turn board. The U-turn board. Can you hear me, Chase? Well, let's see. Yo, can you guys hear me down there? Can you guys hear me? Take the U-turn board out of the discard pile. Man. And it looks like Chase is just trying to buy a turn here. And I think this is the correct line. I think Chase needs to put the U-turn board back into his deck. So long as Natalie's able to get over there. There we go. Yep. All right, great. U-turn board shuffled into the deck. Not a problem. All is solved. We are square again. Wonderful. And Chase used Guzma to try and stall this Malamar for a turn. But John has Guzma in his hand and could use that to bring up Snorlax. And this is it. Can John do a 3-card hand? Oh my gosh. And Chase scoops just like that in a game that looked so promising for Chase. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I cannot believe it. Absolutely crazy. John with the run back and able to bring this game back from the brink of defeat. My goodness. Chase seemed like he had that game in the bag on the key turn that he needed to find Raihan or a way to accelerate an extra energy into play. He was unable to do it, and I think that this game really boiled down to that one turn where Chase decided to chase the Kirlia instead of knocking out John's Iron Boulder. And we saw how John's Iron Boulder, once it got up and rolling, just took control of the entire game and led John to victory here in game 1. Dang, yeah, that was crazy. That was a crazy one for sure. That was a great first game. It was very back and forth. Super back and forth. I'll cut that one up for the Tricky Jim VOD channel. That was a good match. And that's what you like to see. Very back and forth. I mean, it was like, I love it when the little decisions that you make in a game end up being the difference makers, right? Like, the line that you took is what decided. Not just like, it wasn't just like, oh, well, you know, John outdrew Chase. Not by any means, right? There were a lot of different decisions in that game that I think decided the outcome. It wasn't necessarily like one player had the better matchup or one player like had the better draws. It was certainly a game that the little decisions really ended up mattering. And there were like the two real kind of like the 2 points in that game that I think were like major decision trees were early on, where Chase decided to take the double knockout with the Snorlax, right? So like that, yeah, that was like a major decision. And then the other major decision tree was when Chase decided to knock out the Kirlia instead of the Iron Boulder. That was like another major one. John played well. There was early on, he decided to Psy Laser and attack the Snorlax instead of knocking out the Cramorant. Thinking about that, it's kind of funny because, like, if you're John, right, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to hit the Snorlax so that it knocks itself out, you could think of it this way, like, I'm going to hit the Cramorant, right, take a prize, and then if Chase, like, comes up and knocks out the Articuno with the Snorlax, you've got Raihan in your hand, and then Wobbuffet can finish off the Snorlax, right? With its attack. So I think that I'm not exactly sure how much I love like hitting the Snorlax, because like the Snorlax will damage itself, and then like your backup attacker is Wobbuffet, who's already there. So like if you let the Snorlax damage itself, then Wobbuffet can actually finish it off. But instead what we saw is that like Wobbuffet wasn't able to be effective, really. So like Wobbuffet didn't really get actualized as much, right? So it was an interesting game. It was really interesting. It was really close. Like none of the plays that were made were like bad, and that's what made it such a good game to watch, right? Because you know, when you have decision trees, there are like levels of plays you can make. That's like, oh well, like this route, it's like you're on Apple Maps, right? It's like you got 2 ways to get somewhere, and like, oh well, this way might be just like 2 minutes faster, right? Like this way might be. All right, yeah, I got Chase here in the chat now. Chase, if you're listening, that was a really fun game. The only thing that I disagreed with from you was the turn that you chased down to Curlia instead of knocking out the Boulder. I think if you just Night Stretcher for Snorlax back and then 1-hit KO the Boulder with 1 energy, I don't think that there's any way that John whips up an attacker from a 0 energy board. Like, because you're taking out his... You know, you take out the Boulder. John's already down Raihan and Versus Seeker and down D-Valley. So, like, if you take out the 1 energy he has in play, I don't think that there's any way... that John can respond to that. So, like, I think that was, like, the worst decision you made in the game, for sure. It was, like, going for the Curlia when you could have just knocked out the Boulder in front of you, and then, like... I'm pretty sure John's board just crumbles and you just win if you do that.